How dependent on Russian gas is Germany?
It's around 40%, maybe a bit more. It's one of the most dependent of all the European countries. And they've been trying to increase their dependence because there was a pipeline, Nord Stream 2, that was being built directly from Russia to Germany because they were looking for more gas and cheaper gas. So they're very exposed and they're very worried about this threat of Putin cutting off the gas if the Europeans don't pay for their gas in rubles. And that comes into effect today, so we're waiting to see what happens.
Why is it that Putin wants this in rubles? Because, I mean, it's a breach of contract legally, isn't it? So can he demand it, and why would he want it?
Exactly. The contracts have all been written where the payment for the gas bill is supposed to be in currency, euros, dollars. However, the way they've set it up is that they're going to open special so-called K accounts with Gazprom Bank, the bank that belongs to Gazprom, the national gas producer. And the idea is to try and get around this contract clause by the Europeans will pay in euros or dollars into these accounts, and then that money will be in Gazprom Bank converted into rubles. But the idea behind it is to try and weaken the sanctions. Several sanctions have been put on Russia, very painful ones. The most painful was the central bank's reserves, some $300 billion, half of all the money Russia has. And it has this enormous cash pile of $600 billion, far in excess of what it needs. And that $300 billion has been seized. And the second sanction is to ban Russia from the so-called SWIFT system, which allows people to do international money transfers. And that, in effect, has made it impossible for Russia to do business in dollars and euros. It can only do business in rubles. And this whole scheme is to try and force the Europeans to deal in rubles. Because if the money's converted, then that money's converted at the Moscow Exchange and the central bank, both of which are sanctioned. So in effect, you've got Germans paying in rubles and undermining the sanctions. And it also blows a hole in the bank sanctions in so much as this bank, Gazprom Bank, cannot be sanctioned. Part of this deal is that in order to do this business, it has to be excluded from any future sanctions. And Gazprom Bank will then have the ability to pay for things in dollars and rubles. So it's all a political ruse, if you like, to undermine the sanctions, to blow a hole in the banking sanctions, and to force the West to deal in rubles. Because it brings very little economic benefit to Russia at all. It's simply politics.